meeting. And the first agenda is approval of minutes from January 12th meeting.
I approve the minutes from the January
Mike?
12th meeting.
In a second. Jan, second. Okay, all those approved, say aye. All those opposed? Okay. Policies under review. This is the second, or they're going to be the second and final vote to be taken at the next regular board meeting. We're policy 1.07 board meeting, policy 1.08 special meetings of members, policy 1.10 board of directors ethics, policy 1.11 conflict of interest policy, policy 1.12 disciplinary procedure for directors, policy 2.01 common properties, lakes, policy 202 facility reservations and fee policy, 203 is golf cart registration, policy 2.04 is boat registration and mooring leasing agreement, policy 2.05 is common property, and policy 2.06 is member conduct, and last will be policy 2.07 common property cutting of trees. These policies will be voted on for the second and final time at the regular scheduled meeting. Next item, is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. The next policies that we're going to review will be policies 2.08 through 10.01. Once we get started, we'll try to go through as many as we possibly can, and I'm going to turn it over to Tom at that time.
All right.
So 2.08 common property trails. We did some modifications. We have it on the screen over here, but we changed it to gas restrictions. Gas-powered vehicles are prohibited from the trails with the following exception: gas-powered emergency vehicles and maintenance vehicles, which makes total sense.
Yep.
And that does include, JB's here, that does include motorcycles. Like we have a service motorcycle, and so some people get a little bit concerned about that. And then class 1 e-bikes are permitted on the trails, and we have a definition of what a class 1 e-bike is. Hours of operation, most of the time the hours of operation are 10 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. But there have been an occasional, and emphasize the word occasional, events that have gone later. And so this, unless otherwise permitted by the COO, this will allow us to have a later event. But vast majority of the time, the trails are closed at 10.
Like the adventure race where they're going 24 hours all night long. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the extent of the changes to 2.08. If you recall, I gave you all these policies 2.08 till 10.1 last month. So any comments on that one, or I can move to the next one?
My only comment on it is, there is still a fair amount of, people getting on their four-wheelers and their dirt bikes and getting on the trails. Not as much on people driving, but I do admit that we don't really have much in any way of telling people that they can't or shouldn't. So I'm not saying a sign solves many things in this world, but maybe at our largest trailheads we should try to at least reinforce this one, because this is.
And we did match this. Some of this language is taken straight out of the city ordinance.
Yeah.
So that way we're consistent with what the city is saying.
Okay.
And the city does have enforcement authority, so if we, refer something to them, they because of the city ordinance, they can go out.
Great. And actually be the authority.
Yeah.
Great.
The next one is 2.09, which is common property preservation of natural environment. Most of these changes, I haven't seen these in a little bit, so to be honest, this is just wording improvement, language. Instead of as a general rule, we just put generally. Here, general policy as opposed to rule. I mean, it's distinct language that we should use. Just, you know, what we've been doing throughout these policy changes is looking at what makes sense and to improve the language and so forth. We would probably not bring this to the attention of the Rules and Regulations Committee if we weren't doing a comprehensive look at every single policy. If we were just looking at this policy, I probably wouldn't bring forward these changes because they're all ticky-tacky.
But we decided as a group to do it.
Let's do it all. Let's do it. If we're going to be there, let's make sure, let's improve the language and make it easier to read for the average property owner.
Yeah, and do we feel that this is strong enough? This is one of those things that happens, you know, people dumping stuff, people, you know, making their own little parking, you know, whatever kind of stuff.
Remember, we got to make sure that we don't, you know, this is another area where the city or the ACC may be stepping in, so we have to make sure that we don't infringe upon their area.
Do we make mention of that here?
We haven't.
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
We haven't.
I would say maybe top 5 violators of this rule or would be parking. I would say would probably be the
Parking, I would agree with.
yeah. That's probably the first, and people of course dumping leaf litter, but that's maybe yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes.
Depends on what's under.
Yeah, how many much of them they done?
I'd be careful about mentioning.
Other entities.
Yeah, it's you know, we control what we control. It can be confusing. I granted that. The next one is
3.01.
3.01, which is penalizing a member. And that one, once again, is just cleaning up language. We did strike the end of this one. Let's see. The board authorized the chief operating officer or their designee to temporarily suspend membership privileges until the member has been notified in writing of their right to appeal. And then really it's unnecessary. And the time period for appeal has expired. That's really not.
It doesn't even make any sense.
It really doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
You didn't write it. Somebody else did.
That was legacy stuff.
And then just language and nothing, not too much on there. These are kind of boring ones, but I'm sure we'll get to some. Put my glasses on. This is 3.01.1 appeal procedure. And we have very few changes in this one also. Let's see, we
100%.
under process,
Yeah.
we applicant shall provide a basis for the appeal in writing to the board at least 5 days before the hearing date. That gives, you know, gives them a little, 10 days is quite a long time. That's not really necessary. Change the capitalization on executive sessions. After the Q&A, question and answer period, both parties shall be informed in writing, and a written decision will be issued. I mean, we're just really not making much changes. And recognize down here, like where it has documentation, comma, and we wanted to get rid of the comma, Microsoft puts in the whole word again. It's actually a little bit easier to read it. To try and, when you delete or add a comma and they don't highlight it this way, it's kind of hard to find that little change. But so nothing much there. 1.02 identification cards. On this one, we changed it to activity card. Got rid of photo ID, that's definitely dated. Changed it from member services to resources. Got rid of photo ID again. Changed the title again. Business instead of office hours, moved to business hours. No big deal. And we felt that we struck this on as long as such amenities are not based on annual registration. Well, you have some that are and some that aren't. We always have pay as you play, so that really didn't make sense to have that wording in there. And then we struck the monthly or 30-day registration must end no later than the expiration of the 30-day identification card. Refer to the current fee schedule for a list of these amenities with monthly registration. We don't do this anymore. This is dated information. So, nothing much there. Membership cards. I think we made 1 or 2 changes, and that was it. Instead of in order to enjoy, we just put to enjoy. Must be filled out, completely filled out, that's redundant. Issued by, better English, and a reasonable fee shall be levied to cover clerical costs. Nothing much there. 3.04. I venture to guess we didn't make a single change to this one.
Squeaky clean.
No, that one was fine. 3.08, which is temporary parking of vehicles. We changed it to member resources instead of member services. And at some point we'll have to change it from Reardon Hall, but we don't have the new name yet. So nothing much there. Just once again cleaning up. 3.09, suspension of water services for non-payment of assessments. We got rid of a comma there. It says, here it said, if the member requests an appeal from the board shall set a hearing to take place during an executive session of the next regular board meeting. We don't necessarily have executive sessions at board meetings, so that didn't make any sense. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to have an open to the public regular meeting, close that, ask everybody to leave, and then have a closed meeting. That would look really bad. So we changed that and improved the.
I see what they were saying. They were trying to be like, well, if we're going to discuss this again, it'll have to be in an executive session. So
yeah. And it's no criticism of whoever wrote this 20 years ago. Probably won't be insulted. This one, 4.01 cross connection control policy. We went through this one, I think 2 years ago in pretty great detail. So didn't really feel, we added a couple commas. And that's about it. Nothing much.
Oh, I like the next one.
You like the next one?
Yeah.
So 4.02, exterior maintenance policy. Well, we don't have any control over the exterior of a home. That's the ACC. So we struck the whole policy. It makes absolutely no sense for the policy to be in there. So,
wishful thinking.
it's their problem.
Any wishful thinking that we control it?
No.
Yeah, I
What
want
do you
no,
mean wishful thinking?
I want no part of the white picket fence.
Or
Nah,
the
my
purple
answer-
paint on the house?
I think it was just wishful thinking for the day that the ACC's out there.
Oh.
No. Yeah,
Well, we can bring it out of, the, mothballs.
You know, it's either in the declarations or the bylaws that it says, once you submit all the appropriate paperwork, the ACC has 30 days to give you an answer. If they don't, then you assume that they accepted it.
That's right.
But the key is that you submitted all the appropriate paperwork.
Yeah. They can always cook up another document.
6.02, change the word POA to association, which is the language we're using throughout. A little bit of language cleanup. Not only in this policy, but we found in a couple policies where they use the, a non-specific they, and so we just added the director as opposed, just to make it really clear. But nothing really exciting here either.
And close rather than not open, I mean,
Yeah.
positive rather than negative.
Yeah. We're not, yeah, who speaks that way?
Some people that they're not.
It's not uncommon.
Next, you're gonna be speaking in double negatives, and we really won't understand. 7.03, if you recall, we made some changes to this in September of last year, so we're gonna skip that one. 7.04, we did make some fairly substantial changes to the investment policy. They had all these different investment categories, and really at the end of the day, it is the fiduciary responsibility of the board to be conservative, to invest in CDs, which have FDIC insurance as long as it's not over $250,000, and then or U.S. Treasuries and money markets. No property owner is going to compliment the board if they do really well on an investment, but they will absolutely tear into the board if they lose any principal. And it's not, how you invest personally, that's up to you. But this is community money, this is POA money. So we made some pretty serious changes to this one, and really, when it gets down to it, is we are going to be very prudent and very careful with these funds and limit them. And not get into investing with Bernie Madoff or something like that.
You know what happened to POA, don't you?
7.045, is assessments, fees, and other revenues. We just made this clear. This is our practice. It is the responsibility of management to prepare a fee schedule in conjunction with the annual budget to be approved by the board annually. We've been doing that for years, but it wasn't in here, so we just added that. (8.01) Directors and officers indemnification. We looked at this one back in October of 21, so we didn't feel like we needed to make a lot of changes. This was just a little bit of cleaning up of language. Any and all, nobody talks that way. So we got rid of that kind of stuff. Got rid of his, her, and just changed it to there. So just simple language stuff. 8.02 gifts and donations. just making it clear, we struck the chief operating officer will review this policy for gifts and donations with all donors. I don't know how you actually enforce that and how you can track that. The policy serves as that purpose. Request for common property, 8.03. We just clarified it, use of common property for leach fields or traversing common property for a septic system. So just clarified it. Got rid of the health department, so Arkansas Department of Health is the correct title. Mike, I added this one for you. Trees on common property should be removed at the last
That's another
resort
tree
when
board.
installing a leach field or traversing common property.
Yeah.
You talked about that back in
Oh,
21.
well, we'll see if anybody cares, but.
We
We've
remember.
added it.
We got it in there.
It kills me, people buy a lot to build on, they clear every single thing off of it. I just,
We haven't put much of a reward bounty. That's something that the city, JB, that could be an interesting thing if it was an ACC and there was. Because we're running out of developable zones, so we're gonna be able to regulate them a little bit easier in the future. But, you know, the ability to put a value on a tree if they keep it, or find ways to incentivize them keeping it.
8.03.1, use of common property. Just made it, exceptions are short-term booth rentals for fairs, which can be scheduled with the association manager in charge of the event. Don't really have a building manager at all. 8.0.
I did have a question on
Sure.
this.
Let me back up.
When if you look back at the 2.0789, those, and then this looks like it's addressing pretty much the same thing. Is this really in the right spot, and could this section be put into one of the previous ones? '07 is cutting trees, '08 is, I don't know, now. Maybe the previous 2.0s were specific.
There definitely are enough common property policies that we probably folded in. I don't know the one that makes the most sense off the top of my head, but we could do that, or we could just leave it as such.
That's what occurred to me when I was reading through these yesterday.
2.07 is common property cutting trees, and then this one, use of common property, it does talk about trees, but it's kind of a broad use of common property. And then the other one, the other common property one was more specific for leach fields and septic,
Yeah,
use
and
of
then
common.
one's trails and one's natural beauty.
Yeah.
I think we can leave it as is. I don't know.
We need to be able to have something to do next year. Because we're cleaning all of these up and they'll be good, and there may not be a need monthly for rules and regs, right?
You gotta like that term ad hoc, when needed. It's not the exact translation, but it's close enough. 8.03.2, docks and boat house policy.
This is, to Jan's point, kind of another carve out, right? I mean, docks and boathouses are located on common property, but this is specific to those instances. Some, someone had to go look at a big, huge, a policy that covered all of common property. It might kind of get lost in translation, but if someone's just wanting to build a dock, then they could come to this one. And
Well, what about taking these 8 dots and moving them into the 2.0? You could do 2.08.1, 2, 3, 4.
So you have all common.
So they're all
coverage
together.
Yeah, that's
Grouped
not a,
together.
That's a good idea.
I like that idea, yeah.
All right.
We can review that and then, maybe it's a renumber.
We gotta have something to do the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Doug and I are fine on the workload. We're good.
Yeah.
We did make a change on this one, all the way at the bottom. If we struck this, if a member notifies the association of an issue involving a dock or boathouse, the association will refer the member the appropriate authority, either the city or the ACC.
Take it out.
It's not necessary. I mean, we would do that, but it's really not necessary to mention that. 8.04. We felt this was redundant with policy 6.02. I don't remember what that one was. But we struck this one.
Yeah.
Publications. So we felt we could get rid of this policy.
Does the publication one talk about not removing financial documents and technical drawings?
So we cover all that. You know, we use the website for all this. Is on our website. So the association website will be utilized to inform members of news with or board of directors meetings agenda, minutes, association policies, budgets, financial information, all will be kept on the website. I really think this goes back to the old way, going way back, is when you need to look at the minutes, you went to the library, way back in the day. Now it's, we have 15 years of audited financials. We have 7-8 years of, we have tons of information on our website. 8.06, this is the responsibility of the ACC. So we struck it.
And 8.
This will help us because we do have people that call us up and say, well, I looked at this policy, or I looked at the governing documents, and we're like, that's the ACC, but that's not what you're doing. So we're recommending we strike this one. And then 8.08.
Same.
We felt that the unnecessary policy, the board should mandate this of the CO, but not have a policy. This is another unnecessary one. 8.09. Just went through and I updated the titles. The titles had changed over time. And then we did some combining, and 8.09 and 8.10, we combine those together. I'm sorry, 8.10 and 8.11 we combine together. So we're recommending that we get rid of 8.10. So you'll see that we're already on four policies that we're recommending to get rid of. They're just not necessary. This one, which is the combined one, 8.11, is procurement of goods, equipment, and contract service providers. So we just combine everything together, make it a little bit easier, make sure that we use the updated titles. 8.13, leasing of association assets. We did a couple changes on this under procedure. Further, the status of each lease operation shall be reported semi-annually. We've never done that. We enter into, Pop Mike's is a good example. We've had like a 2-year lease. Why report every 6 months? I mean, it's a 2-year lease. And it talks about leases normally may be executed for no more than 1 year, but with the right of renewal. And then we said, but the board reserves the right to enter into a lease agreement exceeding 1 year. You can make the argument, just get rid of this whole thing and just give the authority to the board. The board has to approve such a thing, so. I think open and free competition was a mistake that was overlooked, open and fair. We did add 2 provisions. The lessee will be required to carry an appropriate amount of insurance with the association named as additionally insured. The lease agreement will include a hold harmless provision to protect the POA, the association. So just making these a little bit safer for us, POA. And that's pretty standard. You lease equipment, that at least the property, you have to do a hold harmless and have insurance. Um, 8.15.
Did 8.14 not have anything?
Did I skip one?
I don't,
There is no 1.4.
There is no 1.4.
There may have been at one time.
Well, there is on the internet,
There
on our website.
I think we missed one then. I don't have anything for you on that one. We'll have to come back.
I think it's up there, Tom, on the desktop.
Yeah. You're correct. Maybe we just didn't print it. Oh, there we go.
Maybe that's why we didn't.
didn't we just look at, when did we look at that last? See, we just
We just
updated
approved
that.
Oh, that's why we skipped over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
just did that one.
Okay,
There we go.
I didn't look at that. that
No,
part of the
that's
page.
good. Okay, 8.15. Any requirement should be designated as so to facilitate use by members. Just unnecessary words. Nothing substantial. The next one, 8.16. Did do some changes on this to make it a little bit clearer. So the chief operating officer's employment agreement shall be approved solely by the board. A vote to approve the chief operating officer's employment agreement shall take place in executive session with a summary of the executive session documented at the next regular board meeting. Pretty straightforward. That way it's very clear. The approval by the board of employment agreements for positions other than the chief operating officer are not required to take place in an executive session and do not require documentation at the next regular board meeting. Upon approval of the board, the chief operating officer is authorized to enter into such employment agreements on behalf of the association. That's what we've been doing for years. We just wanted to write it very clearly.
I don't remember voting on that other than the COO. Did I sleep too hard last night?
Yeah, I am required, anytime we want to enter into an employment agreement with one of our directors or something like that, I must come to the board. And I did so 9 months ago.
Okay.
We just don't do it very often, I think that's.
So that's not for, like when we just got through hiring Beth. Beth,
Okay, no, I know who Beth is, but, I don't,
but that wouldn't be a position that would require this, I guess.
no, this is just, if I were to hire a let's pick on Doug. If I were to hire Doug, that does not require approval of the board. That's what my responsibility is.
Okay,
But if I want to enter into an employment agreement with Doug,
Oh, okay.
then I must bring it to the attention of the board, and the board must say, yes, we're in favor of it, or no, we're against it.
Okay, got it.
And if they say yes, then I can go forward and do that. Okay, logo. We're almost there, only 4 left. Language, and instead of the marketing department manager, we put director of marketing and communications. Nothing too huge on that. .03, volunteerism. Just cleaning up language. Nothing really significant here. We did change this. Volunteers performing certain duties that require working with children will be required, not asked. We must undergo a background check.
Yeah.
We don't have any issues.
Yeah, our insurance requirements require that as well. You know, we have to make that disclosure every year when we renew our insurance, that people working with children have had background checks.
One would think if someone has a problem, they would probably deny the request, so we have to require it. Policy is to describe, not prescribe. So language, I don't think many people use the other word. Campaigning should be limited to the distribution of flyers, mailers, brochures, cards, or other forms of informational material. Speeches, political signs, and other forms of overt or conspicuous campaigning is not allowed. So, several years ago, I think it was 2017 or something like that, Doug and I received some complaints that campaign signs were on common property, that we should remove them. We went out and we spent hours, and we really didn't get very far. And here's the challenge is, in some cases, it's really obvious where common property is. In other cases, it is not obvious at all. And sometimes people put it, you know, maybe there's a drainage area, then they go up and they put it on that hill. Well, is that hill there? You know, is it on common property? Is it not? And you can use land, you know, Landglide or GIS, but that is only accurate within what, 3 or 6 meters, something like that. So we could be in a situation where we're removing signs that are on private property. we
And
could
then you're in
potentially-
trouble.
Then we got a problem. So we have taken the approach of, we don't touch signs. We just don't touch them. And invariably, the complaints I get are usually from the opponent.
Yes.
Hey, my signs are fine, but that person's signs, please remove them. And we've taken the approach, we're not gonna get into it, because unless we went out and had an official survey done and we had the ribbons and knew where the pins are, we can't be certain if it's legal or not.
And the time period is,
Yeah. And the city has prosecuted people that have removed signs.
yes, they
from
have,
private property.
yes.
They have done that. So, while I'm willing to risk Doug going to jail,
Kind of knew that was coming, didn't you?
Policy 10.01, definition of a dependent. I visited with the Member Resources Department, and we cleaned this up. For example, it's not required to be notarized, a simple doctor's note. And I probably should mention this, is if any policy was impacted by a certain department like recreation, lakes, or something like that, I sat with that director to make sure, and in this case, they said, you know, no, we don't take current voter registration cards, okay? But we do require proof of college enrollment, so we made those improvements. So those are all the changes. Yes, ma'am?
Hold on, this is just confusing to me probably, because I'm reading it weird. 1B, what is that, not more than 34 years of age?
No, it's 23 years, sorry.
Okay, the 4 is
The
just hanging
4
out?
I don't know why it wasn't struck through, but.
You can kind of see it struck through, but it's just barely above the.
Oh, yeah, it is.
The line that crosses
you're
under
right,
the
it is
4,
struck
you
through.
know, so.
See, the
it's
horizontal
just
line is,
really
the horizontal line on the 4 is actually.
Mhm,
it
the
is
strike through.
Okay, well, it just looks like, you know, kids are now hanging out until they're 234 years old. So 24 is what it is, right?
23.
23.
23 is the number.
Why is that a magical number?
Because that's typically when kids are exiting college.
Okay.
Unless you're Tom, of course, then it takes a little bit longer.
6-year plan. Hey, I graduated in 4 years. So those are all
From
the.
the 2-year college.
Nice.
Ow, that hurt. And that was really good. That was really impressive. So those are all the policies. So what we have left is we are going to go back and look at all the definitions.
Yes,
We haven't touched those. We
Yes.
talked about we wanted to go through all the policies first before we did the definitions. And then we have the bylaws. And I think what we do is the bylaws, we'll just do it all in one, you know, it's not too long of a document. So that would be potentially what you'd see next month. And then you're done for a while unless something comes up.
I'm really proud that we're doing this. I think it's been needed for a long time, and it catches you all up to be able to do what you really need to be doing.
Now, I do like the idea of renumbering. So,
Yes.
I think what we'll do is Doug and I will sit down and look at renumbering. So when you see these policies for the work session and the regular, we might have some changing of policy numbers.
So you mean making them all consistent and go over the ones that were skipped? What do you mean?
No, what her suggestion is.
Oh,
we have-
combining some
we have-
things.
No. What we have common property trails and common property
yeah.
this, but they're scattered.
Yeah.
Let's just put all the common ones in the same, different policies, but have
Right.
them all in the
Same
same, it'll
section.
be a little bit easier to read.
We're saying the same thing.
Oh,
I'm just
absolutely.
saying it a little
I
different.
knew that.
No, a question, it doesn't really matter, but what happens to those holes? Like, for instance, when you skip from 8.11 to 8.15, you ever go back and put a policy in those numbers? Do you ever renumber?
Do you want to just whole scale renumber?
I'm just asking, would that be,
Sometimes where there hasn't been a hole, that's where you'll say 8.03.1. Because
yeah,
we've added a policy and there was already an 8.04.
yeah,
So I'm not opposed to renumbering them all. Just know if we add a policy later on or delete a policy, you're going to have that same issue, but we just haven't done that since.
but would you ever reuse that number if it's gone? Could you put another, like, I don't know, I can't remember
Yeah.
which one it
Yeah,
was.
we could potentially do that.
Yeah,
Recycle the number.
just a thought.
Well, I think that might not be a bad idea to just relook at renumbering it, to make sure it makes sense. But recognize that we already have gone through policies all the way up to 2.07, although these ones are pretty
They're
straightforward.
Yes.
pretty sequential.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just, you
It's the
started
later numbers
eliminating.
that get a little bit messed up. So we'll look at all the numbers. So that may be the only change that you'll view for the work session.
Okay. So I guess before I was 3 or 4 minutes late. We decided to just talk about all these and then decide as a group to push them, to vote them forward.
Well,
Yep.
1.07 to 2.07, they agreed to move those forward, they voted on the minutes.
Okay.
And so now it would be a vote of
All of
the
those.
committee to move these ones forward with the proviso that we're gonna look at reshuffling some of the numbers.
But we don't have to do them one at a time,
No,
thank heavens.
no, because we don't
Okay.
have enough time anyways.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. So is that all that's left now, is just
If you have an
saying
open
to
floor.
move those forward?
Yeah, you make it.
So do we have
motion.
a motion to move the policies we reviewed today forward to the board?
Yeah, I make a motion that we move the policies that we reviewed today from 2.08 to 10.01 that can be renumbered to the board.
I think it's 10.10 and, or is it
10
01?
2.10.
Oh, okay. 10,
When, 10.1.
10 point, okay.
Second? Okay. Mike seconds?
10.01, you are correct. The agenda says 10.1, but the policy is actually 10.01.
All right, all in favor? Looks like it's unanimous. All right, that's it for today then, correct?
No,
Yep.
Nope,
nobody here for open forum?
I don't see anyone, but if there's
Okay.
anybody out there that's in invisible mode right now, if you'd like to speak, please come forward.
Okay.
Seeing none, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Oh, I gotta get the.